Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. This is Will Baggett, Chief Development Officer at Emerging Executives, serving rising leaders in college athletics and beyond. Is your personal brand a reflection of your leadership potential? Well, look no further than our Executive Image Workshop, which has helped thousands master the art of professional presence, and we can do the same for your staff and student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.execimage.org.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Jessie Gardner. Jessie is Assistant Athletics Director for Student-Athlete Enhancement at University of Alabama. Greetings, Jessie. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I'm excited for the opportunity.
I am excited too. I think we've been trying to figure this out for the last few years to get you on the podcast, so this is really, really exciting to me. Now, Jessie, so you spent time at Nebraska, Central Florida, in terms of student-athlete enhancement. Of course, your time as a student-athlete. In terms of working in the profession, we're at 11 or 12 years. And if you include time as a student-athlete, we're almost at 15 years. So you have some experience, right? And then the passion you have for student-athlete development, anyone who knows you or who knows of you understands that passion you have. You've worked for some people who are considered elephants in that area or industry. So I'm glad to have you on to talk about it. I want to know about, I guess, there at Alabama, student-athlete development. Your role has grown. You've put some programs in place there. And I wonder what part of your role over the last 6 years do you consider to be most successful and are celebrated by the coaches and the administrators around you there at Alabama?
Yeah, I think if I take a step back and really reflect on the growth of our program since we launched back in 2014, I feel that our coaches and our administration really appreciate more the strategic approach that we take to holistic development of our student athletes. So I think they're recognizing the tactical methods that we've put in place that have helped our student athletes grow, meeting them where they are when they first get to campus, but then providing different events and different programs that are going to help them grow year by year and bit by bit. And it's all builds off of each other. So they see how that support is helping them be better prepared for that transition when they leave Alabama. And I think that is one of the areas that has been most appreciated by our coaches, by our staff. I also think that they recognize when you're thinking about sports, right? They recognize you introduce a new skill and it's got to be practiced over time. So the strategic approach to the holistic development really provides that opportunity for our student athletes to practice it as they continue in their athletic career. But I think the other aspect that has been really celebrated by our coaches and our administration is the enhanced support of our Student Athlete Advisory Committee. So, of course, SAC on every campus has different structures and different aspects of how they operate and function. And for us, it's really been awesome, really, to see the SAC become more prestigious among its peers and really engaged by our athletic administration. So helping them better, I guess, understand their role and helping them better have a purpose to what they're doing as a liaison, as a team representative. It's really helped empower them. It's helped them recognize the voice that they have to speak on behalf of their peers when it comes to anything from institutional issues or opinions that, maybe our executive administration is looking for, but also from the conference and national level as well. So, a lot of credit I have to give to even our commissioner when I think about the Southeastern Conference office and how we've really been leaders on helping support what SAC means on every campus. And he has helped create a vision with both SAC and what he's created as student athlete leadership councils. Misty Brown, who is our director of student athlete engagement at the SEC, she's been phenomenal in really implementing this vision and giving our student athletes that voice at the conference level and helping them really be empowered as leaders amongst their peers. So I think the enhanced support of SAC, as well as really that holistic development approach that we have, has been really celebrated by our coaches.
I wonder when, 6 years ago, you think back to when you were interviewing, when you were evaluating the position, is this what you, for the lack of a better word, is this what you sold to them? Like, hey, this is what I'm bringing to the table. Here are some ideas I have. Or was that an organic outcome of when you took the position, then did your analysis and then decided this is the direction we need to go?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, really, when you look at it, I came in with a vision, did a lot of studying and researching of what they offered, and utilized my experiences, as you previously mentioned, from Nebraska and UCF. And knowing what worked at those institutions, I had to recognize that it may or may not work at Alabama, but it at least created the foundation for the vision. And that is what I sold, when I had the opportunity to interview and had the opportunity to be hired here. Then once I got on board and once I was on campus, that's where really understanding the needs of our coaches, the needs of the student athletes, the expectation of administration, that's where that piece came in, and that helped shape more of the vision to fit the culture of Alabama. So a little bit of both there.
That's interesting. There's one aspect, and I talk to athletic directors and people in a variety of positions all over the country, and there are some parts of college athletics that are hard to quantify. And somebody like you, I guess me too, we're overachievers, right? And as an overachiever, you want to know how can you overachieve, right? So you can go about doing it. So I wonder about student athlete and development, student athlete enhancement. I imagine that's one of the harder areas of college athletics in measuring success in terms of outcomes within the department. Talk to me about how you have done that over the last 6 years.
Yeah, you're definitely spot on there, because it is a challenge across the country for colleagues of mine to measure the success of what we do. And a lot of that's because it is based on relationships. Our relationships happen every single day. We're building relationships in our offices, in the hallways, at practices, and at their competitions by showing up and supporting. But those relationships usually translate into students understanding that the programs we put on, the events we put on, are for their benefit. When you have a relationship with a student athlete, they trust the fact that what you're putting on is going to be valuable to their growth. And sometimes when you don't necessarily have that relationship built right up front, that's where the support from your administration, from the top down, helps, because, sometimes they get a little extra nudge or a little extra, really need you to attend this program tonight kind of feel, and that allows our student athletes to be in the room. Because sometimes what we do hear on occasion is from our students is that, hey, I really didn't want to come tonight, but I'm so glad I did, or I'm so glad I didn't miss this. And so I don't care how they get in the room. My hope is that once they get in the room, that when they walk away, that they feel like they are better because of it, that they feel like they took something away that is positive for their development. And so that is a huge piece in evaluating the outcomes, and sometimes that is hard to measure. But we do look for other ways to measure success. So anything from attendance, and the participation in an event, to the pre and post surveys and gaining feedback from the students about what they learned, or maybe even how something that we could improve, or what they took away, what was positive. Also one-on-one engagement. I mean, we're having conversations, as I mentioned, all the time. So just asking student athletes, like, what do you think about this? Or what did you think about that speaker? They'll give it to you. They'll be real with you. So, because of those relationships, that helps get you a little bit of that feedback. And then also looking at all the external pieces. So, how many employers have you engaged, or how many alumni have taken part in your programs or connected with student athletes? Internship, job placements, what are those numbers? Community service hours, or the people impacted when you're out in the local community around your institution. So there's a lot of different ways we can measure, but you definitely have to get a little bit more creative.
Right. I imagine in that part of the industry, well, let me back up here. I worked with football coaches for almost 15 years at the AFCA. And one of the most rewarding things to them was when they see a coach later on down the line and they come back and say, Coach, you were very influential, or Coach, look what I've done. Look at the things I'm doing. I saw you do it. Look what I'm doing now. I imagine in the profession you're in, you think about some of the people you worked with or for, like Eric Wood or Marcus Sedbury, and they see you growing in the profession, becoming influential. What is it that you see from student athletes? You're there 6 years, so you got different classes of people who have graduated. Do they come back and say things that make you feel good about the work you've done there at Alabama?
Oh, all the time. And it definitely, I mean, every student that walks through our door, you don't get that from everybody, but ultimately it's as simple as a random thank you note in the mail that you get from somebody, which of course that seems to be a lost art in some ways. And so when it really does surprise you when you get it and there's meaningful, appreciation for everything that you've done, or even a text. I received a text from one of my student athletes who is on their flight back to Germany the other day, and they just had time to reflect, and they just wrote a text that meant the world to me. Seeing a student athlete thrive. I mean, even some, as you mentioned, I've been so thankful for some of the people in the industry who have been mentors for me and have watched me grow. And I've had the opportunity to do that with some of my student athletes as well. And so whether it's in our industry or it's in their industry and they're getting promoted and they're being able to talk about their success, or what I love the most is being able to bring them back and have them re-engage with our student athletes currently and share about that, because it really shows how much that they have transitioned their abilities, their skill sets to be successful even beyond our institution, which is so huge. So yeah, I love all of the success aspects, whether it's a text, a message, it could just be that you run into them one day, or, things because of social media, we're able to watch them from afar too. So just love to see them thriving.
Yeah, that's excellent. Now, one thing I do know about you is you think a lot about the organizational aspect of student athlete development in terms of what is necessary for a department to be successful. I think about that question, like no matter what kind of resources I have, whether I'm a small school, large school, school in the middle in terms of resources, what are some of the fundamental aspects that are necessary? I'll tell you what I think is the first one is buy-in from the administration. Like they have to be able to the AD or whoever needs to tell the coaches, like, hey, this is very important to me, and I want this to be important to you. But I wonder what what is the formula for success, no matter what resources you have, in terms of having a successful student athlete enhancement department.
Well, you definitely nailed it with the buy-in, and I think the buy-in from administration and understanding their expectations, understanding the needs of what the coaches want, or what they see in their students, understanding the needs of the student athletes and what they feel like they need in order to be successful when they leave, allows you to help create strategy. So we talked a little bit about the strategic approach before, but I think an example of what that strategy would look like would be that you can't necessarily send a freshman to a career fair and expect that they're going to get a ton out of it, because as a freshman year, they're just transitioning into school. They're not necessarily thinking about 4 years from now. That a career fair would be more valuable for a junior, senior student athlete. But then those first 2 years, what are you doing to help prepare them to be polished and ready to attend that career fair and rock it and get that interview or get that job opportunity? So I think the strategy piece is really important, because the strategy helps align to the needs, to the vision, to the mission of everything else. And once you get the strategy in place, then it's about really building those relationships. And the relationships I'm talking about here are more like your campus community, or the nonprofits in the community, different organizations and departments that can help you put your programs in place, so that sometimes whether you have a single person on your staff or you have a team of 5, that you are able to implement programs that are helpful for your student athletes in the different topic areas, utilizing the expertise of those people across departments and in the community. So the relationships is really big. I also think attention to detail. People trust when things are clear. People trust when they know what they're going to get. So, if you're going to say that a program starts at this time and ends at this time, then you really need to be respectful of that student athlete's time to give them that hour, and not necessarily go over an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes. But the attention to detail in your emails, misspelling says something about you, and it says something about your professionalism. So the emails you send out, the publications, one of the things that one of my mentors was really big on was when I'd write the newsletter as a graduate assistant, he would just take a pen and just rip it to pieces with red. And I hated red pen. I hated red pen.
That's hilarious.
But you don't even realize how much I utilize that same example with my staff now in helping them better understand the attention to detail in something as small as that, because this is going out to thousands of our alumni. It is going out to our entire athletic department. It is going out to our student athletes. as I wear that Alabama A on my chest, then I represent Alabama, and that's excellence in all things. And so if I'm going to be about that, then I have to be about it in the small and big things. So the attention to detail, and then clear communication and follow through. I think, again, that builds trust with people. When you want buy-in, it kind of becomes full circle, because if they initially buy in, if you continue to be clear in your communication, have the attention to detail, execute strategy, all those things continue to build that buy-in, which helps continue to build that support. Ultimately, you want to become a piece of your athletic department that is essential when it comes to developing the programs on your campus. So being able to help with the recruiting process is a really big piece of what we do as well. And so helping tell these parents, this is going to be the experience that your son or daughter is going to have when they come to our institution. And we are promising you that this is a lifelong commitment from us. So I think that's another piece, but that all goes into, you can't do the recruiting piece till you get the other pieces in place. So that aspect and having that just passion in what you do, it is a labor of love. So, that's also probably more of a personal piece, but you got to know why you're in it and keep that why at the forefront, because, days are long and some weeks are hard. And so you've got to be able to continue to navigate those challenges and still love what you do and wake up every day feeling like you have a purpose, and that this work is more of a calling than it is a paycheck. So those are the pieces that I think are really maybe foundational to having a student-athlete development program, but all starts with buy-in.
If I could summarize, so you want to have buy-in, I guess, and authority from the administration, and you want to be strategic in how you want to map out the programs and the department and how you approach the whole student-athlete enhancement at that university. You want to have relationships in the department and on campus and in the community, right? I guess that benefits everybody when you have those relationships. You definitely want to be a person who pays attention to detail in all aspects of everything you do. You want to be very communicative, understand communication, and be very well versed at it. And then obviously you want to have a passion for the things you do in a department. Actually, I think those things are very important actually, those things sound like they're very important beyond just student athlete development, but obviously the health, well-being, and the future of the student athletes is one of the most important things we can do in college athletics. So those are very important. Jessie, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you sharing this information with us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, of course, for finally getting me on here, but more so for all the work that you are continuing to do in this space. I have very much appreciated it. And of course, I love the podcast. So keep interviewing all these amazing people out there, because I love listening.
That was Jessie Gardner. She's the Assistant Athletics Director for Student-Athlete Enhancement at University of Alabama. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.